Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of Adjustment meeting for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. And just to give a quick introduction here, we have Member Dubik, we have Member Little, we have Member Clark, and my phone is ringing, and that's not supposed to be. Sorry about that. We have Member Clark, Member Allen, and myself as Member McQueen, and I will be chairing this evening's meeting. We have our staff as well, Planner Pasha, and our CAO is watching and listening in, and our viewing public. So welcome, everyone. So, as I said, we have a published agenda. It was on our website, and calling this meeting to order. And with the items that are listed there, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest with our members tonight? All right, seeing none. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I maybe just state this as those that are watching our Committee of Adjustment. So our Committee of Adjustment is the Municipality of Grey Highlands Committee of Adjustment, and it is quasi-judicial to council. And the makeup of our Committee of Adjustment is made up of 3 councillors and 2 public individuals. And so we are appointed by council to sit on this board, or if this, they call it the Committee of Adjustment, or however you want to say it. So I've never explained that before, but I thought maybe it helps for those that are watching to understand who we are, what we are doing, and our job is basically to deal with consents and minor variances, and sometimes we see other things that do come across our table as well. So anyway, that's just a little brief description of our duties and what we do. So moving on, so we do have an set of minutes from, I guess it was, where's the date here? February, looks like that looks a little different there. February 2nd? No, February 11th, sorry, excuse me with that. February 11th, 2025. Can I have a mover and a second for those minutes, please? Member Dubik and Member Clark. And so those minutes from February 11th, 2025, are there any errors or omissions or any discussion on those sets of minutes? All right, all in favor of those minutes? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So tonight we have 4 files that we'll be dealing with. They're all consents. And B06, B07, B08, and B09 with regards to Darwin Madill. So from that, I'll start off the public portion of this meeting. And so this public meeting is called under Section 53 of the Planning Act 1990 with regards to amendments with respect to an application, as I said before, consent file B06, 2025, B07, 2025, B08, 2025, and B09, 2025. Affecting lands owned by 1059486 Ontario Inc. The description as being part lot 10 and 11, concession 9, Euphrasia, part lot 10, concession 10, Euphrasia, as in R340499 Grey Highlands, and the civic address is 135596 9th line. The notice of this public meeting was mailed by standard class mail on the 25th day of February 2025 to the property owner and to all property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, in addition to all agencies and persons identified in the Planning Act. Under the Planning Act, the applicant, the minister, or a specified person or public body has the ability to appeal the decision of the Municipality of Grey Highlands to the Ontario Land Tribunal. It is important to note that if you wish to be mailed a copy of the notice of decision and you do not live within 60 meters of the subject property, you must provide your request in writing to the Planning Department of the Municipality of Grey Highlands. The electronic registration does not represent your written request. Staff can provide direction to you in applying in writing for a request for notice. At this time, the committee will hear presentations by the applicant or their agent. So, Madam Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Chair. We have the agent Matt Rapke in attendance, and they will present the file.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Rapke. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Not too bad. So
All
whenever
right.
you're ready.
Thank you. If the Secretary Treasurer could please scroll down to the next page will work, the figure one. Actually, sorry, let's do figure two. It's a better picture, the next one. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so property is a 166 hectare parcel, having pin 3717000124 and being owned by 1059486 Ontario Inc. And that is a holding company for farm operation that was owned by the late Stewart Madill. Stewart passed away in mid-2024. And his son, Darwin, known as Chip, is the beneficiary of these lands via Stewart's estate. Chip has submitted this application. The subject property spans across 3 original 80-hectare parcels. The entirety of the property is registered under that singular owner, 1059486. So it's kind of, sort of all merged together. However, you'll see this piece on the southwest that fronts onto Gray Road 12. And you can see some lighter lines within the dark lines there. Those lighter lines are assessment parcel boundaries. And that southwestern one, it has consent. A consent was granted for that many years ago. So that piece can actually already be conveyed separately. And if the Secretary Treasurer could just scroll up quick to figure one, it kind of shows it a little better. Just for that. Yeah, so right there, where I've described the retained lot as kind of 2 separate entities, because that southwestern portion, that can technically already be sold from the rest of the property. However, the rest of the property cannot be sold prior to disposing of that southwestern property. Only that southwestern piece has consent. So there's kind of 2 different versions of the retained lands, because that southwestern part, again, can be conveyed, but that southern part shown as retained lands, 10th concession, lot 10, concession 9, that can't be sold separate prior to conveying that western one. Little technicality. So sorry, if you could scroll back down to the other one.
So just briefly on that, Mr. Rapke or Planner Rapke,
Yep.
Is that because they merged as one owner?
It's because kinda, so they're all under common ownership. And how the Planning Act reads is you can't convey land while retaining ownership of abutting lands unless you have an exception. That southwestern part has the exception. It's been granted the consent. The rest of it hasn't. So it could be sold separate, and then it would separate from the rest of the retained lands. But as of right now, that's not the plan. So it's kind of all lumped into one retained lands right now. Anyway, that part's not important. It doesn't actually trigger any other extra planning analysis at all whatsoever in terms of this application. The focus here is on lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this sketch. So the proposal is to create these 4 lots. Lots 1 and 2 will have 70 meters of frontage, 164.5 meters of depth, and will be 1.1 hectares in area. Lot 3 will have 70 meters of frontage and 150 meters of depth, and will be 1 hectare in area. And lot 4 will have 90, let me just check this here, 97 meters of frontage plus or minus. Again, this is going based on the parcel fabric there, and 38.2 hectares of area. That's the request before the committee, is to create those 4 lots. This land is designated rural under the county official plan, so lot creation is permitted here. The key policies that are relevant are the lot density provisions. So the county plan and county plan would permit a maximum of 5 severances per original 200 acres. And right now, and this isn't shown very well on here. But that lot 4, all of these lots, including lot 4, belong to the same original 200 acre parcel or 80-hectare parcel as the 100 acres to the north. So this would maximize the amount of available severances as per the Grey Highlands plan. The Grey Highlands plan only lets you do 4 new lots per original 200 acres. So that's these 4 being created, plus the lot to the north equals 5. That's the maximum number of lots that can be created in that 200-acre parcel. So again, that includes the lands shown as all of the lands being severed, lot 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the lot to the north. Those add up to an original 200 acres. 5 total lots can be made there. That is what is being proposed.
Just to interject here. So you're saying is this was the original 200-acre surveyed lot, like from the original crown.
All of these ones here like that. So on the screen here where it says retained 125 acres, the 2 square parts in the southeast, again, not including that southwestern part of the retained, those form a clean original 200 acres. So that's going to that's effectively the retained, right? Since the southwestern part can be conveyed still. And then the northern portion is in a clean 100 that belongs to an original 200 that spans the boundary to the north.
Okay, thank you. Because some parts of Grey Highlands, the original fabric were 100-acre farms. This was 200 acres.
There's 50, 100s, and 200s. A lot of Euphrasia is 200-acre original parcels.
Okay, thank you.
So this is maxing out the lot density there. The other kind of critical thing here is MDS. So there is a barn on the subject. And if the Secretary Treasurer could please go down to figure 3. Wonderful. So on this map, there's a lot going on here. It kind of illustrates all the other relevant policies. So there's a few barns. There's one on the subject lands on lot 4. The proposed lots are all outside of that pink circle, which is the MDS setback for that barn, which is unoccupied. The property across the road has an unoccupied barn, and the building envelopes for the proposed lots are all outside of that MDS arc. And that's important as part of the reason these lots are as deep as they are. So they have to be a minimum of 1 hectare for MDS for a new lot to be measured not to the lot line, but to an available half-hectare building envelope. So by pushing them deeper, it gets that building envelope outside of the required MDS arc, while minimizing the amount of land being taken away from the farm. So they're kept as small as possible while satisfying that MDS setback. There's a little blue area on lot 3, which is an area regulated by the Conservation Authority. There is an envelope. You could still build in that area by getting a permit, but I've shown an envelope outside of that area just to demonstrate that there'd be no concern with fitting a house and not even bothering with the Conservation Authority permit by avoiding that. There's kind of like a little hole that fills up in the spring with water and then kind of disappears. And then there's that other barn to the southeast. And these lots you can see there on the map are far outside of that MDS arc. There's also a core area, which is that kind of blue blob, what's it called? The natural heritage linkage that connects that core area to another core area, and significant woodlands. And all of those features do potentially trigger an EIS. However, everything that's going on is way outside the adjacent lands. We're 345 meters to the nearest building envelope to the significant woodlands. And that's that smaller significant woodland there. So there's no concern to natural heritage here. Everything that's going on is way far away from those features. That's kind of the main stuff. The one from the zoning end, the lots are slightly under the minimum frontage required by the rural residential zone. So those will all need to be rezoned. Again, because they're under this is what we do in Grey Highlands. The lots are building lots, so they'll be rezoned to rural residential, 70-meter frontages rather than 100 meters, which is quite common in Grey Highlands. I think most severances, at least in the past 5 years, are typically in the 55 to kind of 70-meter frontage range. And then the proposed agricultural, the farm side or farm size lot rather, that lot 4, the minimum lot area requirement is 50 acres or 20 hectares, so it's far above that. However, the minimum frontage requirement is 150 meters, and we've only got 93. We're requesting 90 because after the survey, it's very possible it might be a little bit under the 93 shown by the GIS. So site-specific zoning will account for all of those elements. And the other thing the site-specific zoning should do on the rural residential lots is explicitly state that the new dwelling has to comply with MDS, because the as-of-right permissions of the rural residential zone state that existing lots of record do not require MDS for a new dwelling. And from the building department's perspective, as soon as they see a lot that exists, procedurally, it doesn't make sense for them to go and check when the lot was created to confirm if it's exempt from MDS or not. So having an explicit provision that says, yes, apply MDS on these lots is required to make sure that it's accounted for and that those houses are then shoved to the back of the lot here. I'll leave that there for now and wait for any questions.
So just to verify on that map, just the B05, B06, 07, 08, 09. Can you just clarify which lot is those numbers?
No, I will leave that to the municipal planner. They assign those numbers, so he will know much better than me.
Okay, just because I do want to link them together before we, but okay. Thank you, Mr. Rapke, for your presentation. I will go back to committee members. At this point, are there any questions from the committee members with regards to the presentation that we just had from the agent? Now go ahead, Member Little.
Thank you, Chair. To Mr. Rapke, just on figure 2, if we could take a look at that again. I'm just wondering, from lot 4 and the lot line that runs east-west, and then south of that is the retained parcel, why those two aren't merged if they're owned by the same person?
Mr. Rapke.
So everything here is currently merged. We're proposing to create lot 4 along that east-west boundary. So that's one of the consents. And then the only thing that's kind of sort of not merged, again, is that southwestern portion shown here out to Gray Road 12. It's Schrodinger's merger because it is and isn't merged at the same time, depending on the order of sale that someone attempts to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from committee members? Just gotta slide my screen so I get to see everybody. Okay, if there's no questions this time. There'll be a few times yet we can have the questions that do arise. Okay, get back to my rigs here. At this time, the municipal planner will advise of any comments received and provide an overview of the recommendations contained in the report. We have Planner Pasha. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair. I'm going to go over the proposal just in general so I can provide you with which one of the lots are which files. So the proposal is to sever 4 lots from the northeastern 41.5 hectare parcel of land, which is the south half of lot 11, concession 9. The 4 lots will be comprised of the following. B06 is lot 1, which is the northeastern lot. It's rural residential. That will be a 1.14 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 164.5 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along 9th line, located at the northeastern corner of the subject lands. B07 2025, that is a lot, that is the second lot, and that's located directly south of that northeastern lot. That is a 1.14 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 164.5 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along the 9th line, located at the eastern edge of the subject lands, directly south of Lot 1. Lot 8, oh, sorry, B08 2025, which is Lot 3. That is the southeastern corner lot that's being proposed. That is a 1.04 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 150 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along the 9th line, located at the eastern edge of the subject lands, directly southeast of Lot 4. This lot will be located at the southeastern corner of the original township lot of Lot 11, Concession 9. And then the last lot, which is B09 2024, that's lot 4. That is the farm-sized parcel. So a 38.2 hectare farm parcel with a depth of 1,350 meters and a frontage of 97 meters along 9th line will be located on the eastern edge of the subject lands. The frontage of the proposed lot is located between lot 2 and lot 3. Now, in terms of the overview and purpose and effect, the proposal is to sever the 4 lots from northeastern 41.5 hectare parcel of land. The 4 lots will be comprised of the following: a 1.14 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 164.5 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along 9th line, located at the northeastern corner of the subject lands, will be severed. And B07 2025, a 1.14 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 164.5 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along 9th line, located at the eastern edge of the subject lands, directly south of Lot 1, will be severed. Sorry, that says B19, but that should actually say B08. And that is a 1.04 hectare residential parcel with a depth of 150 meters and a frontage of 70 meters along 9th line, located at the eastern edge of the subject lands, directly southeast of Lot 4, will be severed. The lot will be located on the southeastern corner of the original township lot of Lot 11, Concession 9. And the next one, it says B20 2023, but it's supposed to say B09 2025. A 38.2 hectare farm parcel with a depth of 1,350 meters and a frontage of 97 meters along 9th line, located at the eastern edge of the subject lands, will be severed. The frontage of the proposed lot is in between Lot 2 and Lot 3. The retained lots will be reduced to an area of 1,125 hectares with a frontage of 619 meters onto 9th line. In terms of comments received, we have the following. Grey County planning staff have reviewed the subject application, and so have their ecology staff. Their ecology staff reviews concerns regarding natural heritage, which means are there any concerns regarding, significant species or danger to those kinds of species, especially as indicated previously that there is a natural core or core area as well as linkage area on the rear of the property. Grey County planning staff have stated that they have no concerns with the subject application after a review. The county requests a notice of any decision rendered with respect to the subject file. Grey Sauble Conservation Authority have reviewed the proposed consent application as well as the other application that was applied for with this application, which is the zoning. The GSCA reviews natural hazards that may occur from any proposed development or proposed planning application to the subject property, and they have stated that they have no objections to the proposal for the described zoning and consent application. Grey Highlands Building Services has stated that they have no concerns. They should be advised that any future development will require building permits and must comply to the requirement in the Ontario Building Code and all applicable law in place at the time of permit submission. Grey Highlands Transportation Department have reviewed entrances for each one of the proposed lots. They have stated that residential and pre-approval entrance permits have been issued, which indicates that they find the locations for the properties acceptable as well as the entrances into the proposed lots acceptable. No other comments or concerns from transportation and public spaces at this time. And environmental services have stated that they have no comments or concerns from environmental services. In conclusion, the proposed lot creation complies with the provincial policies and official plan policies. The proposal has regard for the matter that are specified in before I get to the conclusion, there are two other comments that were received from the public. One of them is from Dan, and the other one is from Rix. They are in attendance today. They have stated that they will be speaking regarding their comments, which is why I did not reference them. So I'm going to move to the conclusion. In conclusion, the proposed lot creation complies with the provincial policies and the official plan policies. The proposal has regard to the matters that are specified in section 5312 and 5124 of the Planning Act. The planning staff recommend that the applications be approved subject to the specified conditions. And the conditions are as follows. That consent application B06-2025 be approved subject to the following conditions: payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of a $300 approval fee, payment of the $2,000 parkland dedication fee, a zoning bylaw amendment Z04 2025 be passed to rezone the proposed lot from rural, which is RU, to rural residential RUR XXX. The exception number will be determined at the time of the zoning amendment to facilitate the lot creation. And the fifth condition is that a reference plan survey that is registered be completed and a digital and hard copy be filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the registrar. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration of the survey. The second recommendation for consent application B07, that consent application B07-2025 be approved subject to the following conditions: payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the $300 approval fee, payment of the $2,000 parkland dedication fee, a zoning bylaw amendment Z04-2025 be passed to rezone the proposed lot from rural to rural residential to facilitate the lot creation, and that a reference plan survey that is registered be completed and a digital and hard copy be filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the registrar. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to registration of the survey. For B08-2025, that consent application B08-2025 be approved subject to the following conditions: payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the $300 approval fee, payment of the $2,000 parkland dedication fee, a zoning bylaw amendment Z05-2025 be passed to rezone the proposed lot from rural to rural residential to facilitate the lot creation, that the reference plan survey that is registered be completed and a digital and hard copy be filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the registrar. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration of the survey. And lastly, consent application B09-2025 be approved subject to the following conditions: payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the $300 approval fee, payment of the $2,000 parkland dedication fee, a zoning bylaw amendment Z04-2025 be passed to rezone the proposed lot from rural to rural with an exception. I know it says rural residential, but that is an error. It should just be rural to rural with an exception to facilitate the lot creation, that a reference plan survey that is registered be completed and a digital and hard copy be filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or an exemption from the reference plan be received from the registrar. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration of the survey. And that is all.
Okay, thank you for that, Pasha, Dr. Pasha. And just on that little part that was in the planning report of those two little, I think it was B14 and B20 instead of B08, will that be corrected for when, if somebody goes back and reads this report, those will be corrected?
Through your chair, yes, that will be corrected.
Thank you for that. All right, and I guess thank you for that. I'll go back to our committee members, but before I do that, I'm going to go to Mr. Rapke, to the conditions that were read out. Do you agree to those conditions that were read out for B06, B07, B08, and B09?
Yep, as long as that one typo that Abdullah pointed out gets corrected, that it's still going to be zoned rural. Everything else there looks great. Okay,
thank you for that. And just in the sense of the, I think, Planner Pasha, you mentioned there was two individuals. I think you said Rick and Dan. I know I did receive a copy of those. They will be added for the record for those two letters. I don't know if the rest of the committee received those letters, but they will be addressed during the public comment. Is that correct?
That through chair. Yes, that is correct.
And they'll be added to the record.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. All right, thank you for that. I'll go to our committee members. Questions, comments with regards to our staff report and comments received. Go ahead, Member Dubé.
Thank you, Chair. So a question to staff. So we've heard that lot 11, and so with the severances that are in front of the committee right now, will max out the number of severances. And there's still a property within lot 11 just north of this property owned by another property owner. So just wondering, how is the planning how does the planning process take into consideration potential severances may be needed or required for the other property owner? Is it considered or not? If you can just provide a little color on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question, Planner Pasha.
Through you, Chair. So in terms of consents being done on adjacent properties or maxing out consents, the lot density requirement comes from the County of Grey, which they interpreted through the provincial policy statement as well as the Planning Act. So the lot density requirements from the County of Grey is much higher than what it is in Grey Highlands. Grey Highlands official plan in terms of lot density can be more restrictive, but they can be less restrictive than the County of Grey in terms of policy being compliant with upper tier policy. So the possibility of the applicant or a neighbor being, or the amount of density for the lots being expanded, so long as it meets the requirements of the county policy, there is that policy. However, there are additional procedures to follow for that one. Now, when it comes to the Planning Act in terms of determining whether consents are approvable or not, the lot density requirement, as long as the lot density requirement hasn't been exceeded, that is the policy that we address. It doesn't address whether or not other properties are capable of also severing lots, or it doesn't look at should the severances be distributed equally along all capable lots. The consent is basically applied for if the person has a means or capability for them to do so, and then the consent is addressed through the policies of or through the Planning Act requirements, as well as the policies within the PPS, as well as the Grey County official plan, as well as the Grey Highlands official plan. It doesn't really look at the distribution of consents equally among multiple landowners. If that answers your question.
If I may, just a follow-up, can I just could you just please just clarify again for me, what's the density based on the county versus density for Grey Highlands?
Sure. So within a sorry, through you, Chair.
Go ahead, Planner Pasha. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair. So Grey County permits a maximum lot density of 6 lots on a original township lot that is 100 hectares in area. So that would mean they're permitted to have 5 severances. Grey Highlands, the way the policies are written for Grey Highlands, consents in a rural designation is 1 less than the lot density of what Grey County permits.
So that's generally 2 per 100, correct?
That is correct.
Right. So just doing the math, and I see Mr. Rapi is going to make a comment here, and I'll go to you just in a second. So our official plan says 2 per 100. Now this was originally a 200 acre parcel, so which would be 4 plus 2 retains if it was 100 and 100, right?
Yeah.
So 2 and 2, plus 2 retains, which is a total of 6 altogether. Is that correct?
Sorry, just to correct myself, the county has a chart that says per original township lot how many severances are permitted. So in 20 original township lot, 20 hectare, you're permitted 1 severance, which means you're permitted 2 lots. In a 40 hectare original township lot, you're permitted 3 severances, which equates to 4 lots, which includes the retained lot. In a 60 hectare, you're permitted 4 severances, which equates to 5 lots. And then in an 80 hectare original township lot, you're permitted 5 severances, which equates to 6 lots, including the retained. And then in terms of Grey Highlands official plan policies, that is 1 less. So this is an 80 hectare lot, so it's 1 less, meaning they're permitted only 4 severances, which equates to 5 lots.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Racky, I saw your hand up. Did you have a comment to that?
Yeah, and a couple, just to elaborate there, the specific wording, I've just pulled it up here in the Grey Highlands official plan that takes one away from the county. So it says all consents for new development shall be no smaller than 0.8 hectares in area, and a maximum density of 2 lots may be considered, and then in brackets, plus the retained by the consent process per 40 hectares. So it allows you, if you got an original 40, you can do 2, but then if you stretch it to an original 80, there's still only 1 retained. So it's still, there's the 1 retained, and then there's 2 sets of 2 for each 40 hectares, right? So it's 5 total lots get to exist in that original 40. And then the other element is the policy is just completely silent on if you have an original 80 and you got 2 different landowners in that original 80, it says nothing about ensuring that they're distributed between them. The committees, if something comes before the committee makes a decision if those things before the committee meet the policy framework currently. And then if someone in the future were to apply for something, that application would then have to meet the policy framework or not. So Scott Taylor will tell you, because I've asked him this years ago. They just say it's a first come, first serve is effectively what the policy is.
Okay. With the exception of doing an amendment to the Grey Highlands official plan, because the county does allow the extra lot.
Yeah.
And that has happened a few times over the years. We've seen that, but that amendment has to go to the council itself, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. Member Little.
Thank you. 2 questions. The original 80 hectare parcel was severed, correct, into 2 40 hectare parcels, and we're dealing with the 1 40 hectare parcel.
Planner Pasha, want to answer that first? Or who are you directing your question to, Member Little?
I was following up with Mr. Rapke, but I can speak to Planner Pasha as well.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Rapke first, and then I'll go to Planner Pasha.
So what likely happened here, because there's old barns on the properties, is these would have been split into 100-acre parcels prior to like a consent being a thing, so prior to subdivision control. But it's still, yes, they were subdivided through a conveyance. Someone got a surveyor to do meets and bounds and conveyed half of one at a minimum, separate from one another at some point in time.
So just to follow up through the chair, that division of the original 80 hectares does not count as a severance, or does count?
It's not so much counting as a severance as you count the number of lots. So do I have the ability to share a screen? I have a sketch up here. Try this. Are you seeing my map?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you can see my mouse.
Yes.
So if you follow kind of this line down here and over here and up here, that is an original 80. So there will be this parcel, the neighbor, lot 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 5 that will then exist in that 200, and that complies with the county OP and the Grey Highlands OP. The county OP would, if the Grey Highlands OP didn't exist, for example, allow another lot to be created, which would, likely be out of here because you've run out of frontage over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this would be a full 200 acres down here, or 80 hectares rather. And now we'll have to stop sharing.
Member Little, do you have anything follow up to that?
No, that I had another question, but that makes sense. If I could ask my next question.
Go ahead.
I guess I don't want to say I'm confused, but I would like some clarification on the mandate of the Committee of Adjustment, because really I see this in my perspective, it looks like this hinges on a zoning bylaw amendment, and which I'm not sure how the Committee of Adjustment is to take that into consideration if this file is going to the Planning Committee and members of council for a decision on a zoning bylaw amendment. Because to me, sitting on the Committee of Adjustment, this decision to make the proposed lots narrower than what is recommended in the zoning bylaw is significant, the way I look at it anyway. And so I guess I just need some clarification. I see that our decision is conditional upon getting that zoning bylaw amendment for the diminished lot frontages. But those diminished lot frontages actually affect the number of severances that could be done on this property. And so I guess I'm just personally struggling with that a little bit, and I don't know where my decision making begins and ends, as far as how much I should, as a member of Committee of Adjustment, think about how the impact that the zoning bylaw amendment application, which is in process, I believe, right now, like how that impacts my decision, if that makes sense.
Well, I just want to clarify. So if you were suggesting that, as it says in the official plan, that they should be 100 meters requirement, not 70, you're saying then they wouldn't get the number that they're making application for. Is that how am I reading what you're saying?
Well, I think it's the zoning bylaw that specifies that. Is that not correct? So, yeah, I mean, if it were the official plan, it would be a bit easier for me to make a decision, but because it's the zoning bylaw and it would be going to the Planning Committee, members of council, then yeah, I feel like I'm a bit of a gray area.
So just seeking that clarity, I guess my clarity was on the official plan. Does it say generally it's 100 meters up? Is that, I just want to tease that out because I thought or is that written in the official plan, planner passion?
Through you, Chair. So the official plan does not provide setback requirements. It does provide lot area requirements. As you know, the Grey Highlands zoning bylaw is quite old, and a lot of the requirements that are located within it are amendable, provided that an appropriate provision is requested, or an appropriate area is requested, appropriate setback is requested, appropriate frontage is requested. And the zoning amendment is based off of that. Now, in terms of for applications where people request frontage reliefs, the main thing is whether it's compliance with the official plan. In the official plan, or especially even in county official plan, it states it provides an area calculation, which is the minimum of I believe it's 0.8 hectares. So at a minimum, you need to have at least 2 acres of land for an area, and then your land needs to be at a 1:3 ratio in terms of frontage to depth. And that is what the official plan provides in terms of lot characteristics. Provided that the lots meet that 1:3 ratio, and again, this is limited to rural residential lot creation within the rural designation, which this is. Provided that's the case, this can be supported. Now, zoning amendments are requested after consent application or as part of a condition of the consent application, even when it's granted, because of the fact that the site alterations are changed or site configurations are changing, which means it will no longer comply with the zone that it's located in. Secondly, when committee makes the decision to provide a consent approval, that doesn't necessarily mean the lots are created automatically. They need to go through a process where they have to survey the lands, they have to get all the ownership information in order, they have to get all the transfer information, as well as the other conditions that were placed on the consent before conveyances can occur. But prior to that, the lots just won't be created. They just will have permission for a limited time to be able to be conveyed. And that is it. But in terms of requirement for a reduced frontage, which the applicant which is part of the application, the official plan supports the area requirement, provided it meets that minimum threshold. At the same time, provided it meets that ratio for 3:1, which county planners have indicated that it does meet that 3:1.
Thanks for that clarity. Going back to you, Member Little, I was trying to get some clarity, but there's not a minimum or maximum for width. It's an area and a 3:1. So I thought maybe there was, but I was
Yeah,
wrong.
no, that makes sense. I'll leave it for now. Thanks.
Okay. Just before I go to Member Allen, I don't know if you had something to add, Mr. Rapke.
No, Abdullah covered the frontage to depth provision in the OP is the big thing here. You can't go beyond the 1:3, like you said, so that would give us a maximum depth of 210. So these are far from that. And like you said, the zoning bylaws, like it's fairly old. The 100 meters is an arbitrary number. The 1:3 is more of a qualitative factor that the county's come up with. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if in the time I was at Grey Highlands, a single lot was created that met the 100 meters. Everyone kind of does rectangular ones because it's just a nicer fit for laying out a yard and squishing things away from agricultural operations.
I guess from being there for a long time, I had 100 meters stuck in my head. So, okay, Member Allen, you had a question.
Thank you, Chair. I'm having trouble getting around the fact that somebody that owns 50% of the original 200-acre lot has the possibility of using up all the severances that are allowed on that size of parcel. And Member Little asked about frontage and the zoning bylaw. The only reason that this application is being able to request the maximum number is by reducing the frontage. And if Grey Highlands made a decision to have 100 meter frontage, that would only allow 3 lots off the front of this property, leaving 1 severance for the other one. I think I could support the creation of 3 lots here and leaving 1 for the adjacent property, but I would find I don't think I can support the way it's laid out. As I say, the only way they're getting the maximum is by also asking for a reduction in frontage. So not fair in my books. Thanks.
Okay. I don't know if there's any comment there from Planner Passer. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rapke, Planner Rapke.
I get what everyone's thinking. I just want to know the decision has to be made based on what Section 51 says under the Act, and there's nothing in there that talks about what feels the most fair based on the maximum density provisions limiting someone else from doing something. It says, make an assessment if this complies with the policy framework, and the four consents do comply. Like they comply with the official plan, the zoning bylaws, the regulatory portion. And I do recognize that it says 100 meters, but again, that doesn't mean that that's what it has to be. The official plan is the one that guides the law creation process, right? So I do see what people are saying and that it feels unfair, but the question is what complies with the framework.
Okay. I think Member Allen, you have a follow-up.
Yes, thank you. As members of the Committee of Adjustment and the knowledge that we've gained from this and seeing that there is in the report, these severances would require a zoning bylaw because of a deficient frontage, that tells me that yes, it meets the legislation, but it's not meeting the zoning bylaw. And if we feel that this is not right for this area, this property, then I think we have every right to deny one or defer this file to have them come back with a different application that does meet frontage and all zoning requirements. I don't think we have to make a decision just on does it adhere to the Grey Highlands official plan. It does, but it doesn't adhere to the zoning bylaw.
This is sort of a unique one where it's a 200 original, being, I think most times we've dealt with the original 100 acres, but this is sort of a unique one for sure.
Yeah. And I think I was trying to remember after reading the letter from Rick's Lubenkopf that I was trying to remember if we've dealt with this before where two different owners have split the original farm lot. I don't remember it happening, so yeah, it's interesting.
The only one that could be referenced, and I'll leave that for a minute. I'll go to Planner Pasha, and then I'll bring an example back that I remember. But go ahead, Planner Pasha.
Thank you, Chair. Would like to just indicate one thing really quickly. A zoning amendment is still required for the rural residential lots to rezone them from rural to rural residential. And again, rural residential lots have been historically rezoned to a frontage that is somewhat less than 100 meters. Again, just would like to clarify that, it's something that is within the planning framework and has been supported previously. Again, just stating that, and that is all.
I would say yes. There's probably lots of times where they have been a lot less than 100, depending on the circumstances, for sure. Go ahead, Member Allen.
Thank you. Yes, I remember lots of them that have been 70 meters, that type of thing, but it hasn't been on a piece of property where it's taken the full frontage of that property and also restricted the other half of the property from getting any severances. So if this person owned both 100-acre parcels and wanted this same configuration, I could support that, but they don't own the other half. Normally that, I would think that the official plan was thinking that those 5 lots or 6 lots in the county's plan would be spread out over the 2 lots, not all taken from the one.
And was any other further comment on that from staff or Mr. Rapke? I think the one example maybe would be in a smaller sense, if there was the original 100 that was divided in 250s and somebody wanted to take a 2-acre lot, we maybe have ran into that, not too often, but sometimes those 50 are at the back where they don't have that opportunity to take a severance because they're landlocked too sometimes, and it could be added to another property. But this is, I will say to you, Mr. Thomas, this is a unique one because of the original 200 acres. Okay, any other comments? Go ahead, Member Allen, or Member Little, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to belabor this, but it seems that the committee has, I guess, less discretion because we are not looking at the zoning. That's not the basis for our decision. So I think it does hinge on the planning committee, which does have discretion over and can consider in a broader sense whether this makes sense or not. So I'm wondering, I just feel that either, I know there's a condition which may be sufficient, putting that condition on if we were to approve or support these applications today, conditional on that decision, or deferring our decision today until the other zoning bylaw amendment decision is made. I'm just feeling, I think, not the only one, feeling a little bit, this is a difficult one, and I'm not sure that we're the body to really, to address this fully. And we do have some options, so maybe we should think about those. Thank you.
And just on that, Member Little, we still have the public portion yet to go to as well. So, and then it will have opportunity to come back to this further conversations with here. This committee can change, agree to the conditions or set different conditions as well. And there are four consents being set aside here, and they are numbered and they are correspondence to those codes as well. So we are specifically knowing which of the consents there are for and what the numbers are and where they are. So the committee is quite aware of that as well. Go ahead. Sorry, Member Clark, I saw your pen come up and I see it come up again. So go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I guess I'm not real comfortable with the discussion that we've been having either. As to, it seems to me that there should be more discussion or more. I guess the planning committee should make a. I guess does our decision have to come first, or can I guess that would be a first question.
Yeah, traditionally, the conditions come. The consent decision comes from this committee, and the conditions are laid out. But I'm going to go to Planner Pasha first, and then Planner Rapke or Mr. Rapke. Go ahead, Planner Pasha, for that comment question.
Chair, through you. So the decision of the committee regarding a consent would need to come first beforehand, and that's why we put the condition regarding a zoning amendment being approved as part of that condition to address the deficient frontage as well as area that the property is going to have once the rural residential lot is going to be made. The reason why we do this is because in the event that the zoning amendment is passed, but a consent is not passed, or like if we do it the opposite way around, where the consent doesn't make sense, but the zoning amendment is passed, now you have areas of the property that are zoned a specific way that don't reflect the side of the property, essentially, which is why a consent is passed based on the evaluation of whether or not the consent is appropriate as per the official plan and the Planning Act. And then once the consent is approved, there are conditions placed on the consent where they don't receive full approval until they do their other steps, which includes obtaining the zoning amendment to address any deficiencies from the lot that will be created, or again, setbacks or specific requirements. For example, the ones that these require, which is any new dwelling built on the property will need to go through MDS compliance or an MDS report. So, sorry, just reiterating, the decision of the committee with the conditions would need to occur beforehand.
Okay.
Any further up? I got Mr. Rappy wants to respond first, but go back to you, Member Clark.
Well, I guess in that explanation makes a lot of sense. I guess still not real comfortable with it. And I guess my other question was with regard to MDS, the way the lots are proposed, does that affect any new build on the farm across the road that, with regard to a new barn? How far away would the new barn have to be after these houses were built?
So that I will go probably to the applicant, or Mr. Rapke. Can you respond to that question with regards to the arcs that, so that would be with regards to, is it MDS2 to the ability to build an agricultural building, right? So Mr. Rapke, are you able to make comments to that?
Yeah, am I still here? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I lost myself on the screen. Yep. MDS, so I can't tell you what it would be because it depends on what the barn is, how big it is, and the animal and the type of manure that the animal produces. But it would be, number one, once a house is put there, it's then reference to the house. So that house already has to be whatever that arc is. Like we're at, let me pull up lost that page, sorry. So the new houses will have to be a certain distance from that unoccupied barn. And just to note on unoccupied barns, the MDS calculator actually, like if that had beef cows in it to the same capacity that barn can fit, it would actually have a smaller setback than an unoccupied barn. Like it puts a little bit of a buffer in to leave it flexible to stinkier types of animals. So depending on what they're doing.
Just on that, so from the unoccupied barn, there's a calculation that has maybe more than what maybe somebody would put it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the way you do it when you don't know the information well, you can see it's unoccupied, but how you're supposed to calculate it to be as precise as possible is you're only calculating the area of the livestock occupiable portions of the barn. So when you can't go into someone's barn with a measuring tape and measure that out, you use the aerial imagery and you measure the roof area. And the roof area is obviously giving you a bigger floor plate than what could be occupiable because there's going to be walls inside and there's areas that you don't put livestock. So number one, it inflates it because you're just going on the total roof area. And then number two, because it's unoccupied, the multiplier values that would be applied to cows are a little inflated for an unoccupied barn. So, and most people in barns like this typically end up putting beef cows. I haven't seen them used for a ton else, but so there's already some buffer there. And then on the MDS2 front, it actually tends to have smaller setback requirements than MDS1 for the exact same scenario. So if you're building a new house relative to 100 beef cow barn, the setbacks, let's say 300 meters. If you're building a new 100 cow beef cow barn relative to an existing house, the setback might be only like 270 meters. It doesn't work as a perfect direct ratio. It gives more flexibility to the farmer siting a new barn. So yes, it will impose an arc. I would say that property still has a ton of space to put a barn on it. It is certainly not sterilizing that property. It's not sterilizing that barn. That's why the MDS setback is applied. It is certainly not preventing that property from being used for agricultural purposes. That's why MDS is applied in these scenarios.
And can you do a minor variance on the MDS?
You can. It's frowned upon by the framework, but yes, theoretically you can. And sorry, the original reason I put my hand up just because I see where we're going here. I've been texting my client if it would please the committee and massage some of these concerns. My client's fine with dropping the consent for lot 4 if they would like to proceed. with just the building lots, because lot 4 is ultimately going to be continued to use as a farming operation with the rest of the retained lands for the far foreseeable future.
So just clarity, so that would stay with the piece that's further down on the map?
It
With
would
125 hectare, that it would stay with that, is that correct?
The 38.2 hectares would still be stuck to the 125, again, kind of sort of be stuck to the 80 to the south for sure, again, because that western part can still already be separated. But yes, it would just be 3 building lots, no new farm lot.
And what would that do for the retained or the other 100? Would that allow a severance on it?
Yes, that's kind of the way, again, in my experience, Grey Highlands always interpret, again, the county already lets an extra severance happen. And at the Grey Highlands official plan and committee and council level, in my experience, when you have a large farm lot that straddles 2 lot boundaries, it was kind of always seen as unfair to take an extra severance away and count that lot twice, like once in each area. And it was used like, where is the majority of the lot sitting? And that's the lot, that's where it's counted towards. So that would leave a severance available for that lot.
Plus, you could do an amendment to the Grey Highlands plan to do the second lot if you wish to put 2 lots.
Theoretically, yes.
And my last question before we go to Planner Pasha is then if it's added to 125, can that be taken 100 off it?
The southern portion, multiple lots can be created for that. And just to be straightforward with committee, my client and his daughter are working on figuring out exactly where they want to make a like a horse lot for her in that portion. We didn't bring it all forward at the same time because they're still figuring that out and did not want to delay this one. So that will be happening, and long-term thoughts about other lots there too. That's not all totally finalized at this point in time.
Okay, thank you for that. Planner Pasha, did you have anything to add to that from that before I go back to committee? You had...
Sorry, through your chair. No, I don't have anything further to add regarding that. But other than what you previously reiterated regarding the northern lot would then have 2 additional potential for 2 additional lots.
Okay, thank you for that. I do have a procedural question, but I'm going to go back first to Member Clark. You had asked the last question. There was a bit of a change here. Do you have any follow-up?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, yeah, I think the 3 lots will work a whole lot better than 4 and taking the option away for the owner next door. And I guess, yeah, I think I'm fine with that. I guess. Well, yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Yeah, we still have to go to the public first. I want to go back to Member Lowe before I go to Member Doobie, because that was a question you had. Any follow up to that to that comment that was made by the applicant?
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Member Little, did you have a follow up?
Just for clarity, can you maybe Mr. Rapke can just explain what the client is suggesting that they're willing to do?
So for clarity, Mr. Rapke, can you explain what you just sort of proposed from your client has suggested?
So my client is saying the committee, if they want, they could deny. We can withdraw. It can be deferred. It doesn't matter. B09, I just want to double check, and perhaps Planner Pasha can confirm there, but lot 4, he's okay with not proceeding with creating that lot. It would still be part of the retained lands, which I believe pertains to law application B09 based on the condition description. So it would just be those first 3 consents that we would like approved.
So I think from procedural, generally in writing, I think a request to the committee can be made that B09 be withdrawn, and the committee can determine that. If I think back to my times of being chair for many years, maybe get some clarity from staff on that. But I think versus denying it. I think the first, if they wish to remove that application, I think they do have that option, but it's still something that I think procedurally, and that's something maybe I would need to be teased out here. But anyway, I'm going to go back to right now, Member Dubik.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you for that procedural question. 'Cause I too am kind of thinking along those lines, and wondering, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable to do things sort of on the fly, and wondering if we should be, in essence, deferring so that the file can be returned to the client. Have that full conversation, because there could be other options that you may want to still consider. Don't know what that is, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. I think currently changing something on the file on the fly personally, and I'll just leave it at that. Maybe Planner Pasha has more information about sort of this process, but that's just my reaction. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for those comments, Member Dubik. I'm going to go to Planner Pasha. I have a comment to go back to the committee. Go ahead, Planner Pasha.
Hey, Chair. So through you, we're currently the Secretary Treasurer is currently looking through the procedural bylaw, but it's most likely it can be done during the meeting. We would just need to document it on the decision, but we're currently double checking. Essentially, the point of this amendment to the application is the removal of B09. I'm just going to make sure that is the correct. Yes, so that consent application B09 be withdrawn from the meeting as well as the file.
And usually that comes in writing from the applicant or their agent.
Yeah.
So just before we get too far down, we do have the public comments to this as well. So I mean, there's a lot of things moving around here. I'll go to you, Mr. Rapke, and then I'm going to sort of do a summary here where I think we should go next to the committee. Go ahead, Mr. Rapke.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yes, after you commented, denying is a terrible idea because then it can still be appealed. So, but in terms of something that wouldn't actually materially change the application, because realistically, it is 4 applications, right? There are 4 distinct things that can be decided upon. So the other 3 aren't changed. Number 4, because I don't have anything in writing for you right now, can just be deferred. And then by tomorrow morning, there can be a letter with formally withdrawing it. And then it would never come back to committee. It would just be withdrawn.
So just in summary, you're saying that one could be deferred for more information. The information would come and it's going to be withdrawn. Could be the option. All right. So, excuse me. Remember, I think we need to go to the public. But I think just I want to remind committee is we have 4 files. There's been quite a bit of conversation around the numbers. Also, each committee member has the ability to approve, deny, or defer for all those reasons that are in each other's mind, and this is maybe a good example of that reason. It's been presented by the agent that we could deal with B06, B07, B08, B09 could be deferred for clarification. But I think if there's no other questions at this point, I really think we do need to go to the public to get comments there as well. As we know, there were 2 letters that had some concerns as well. So are there any other comments, questions? We'll circle back. These are all good discussions. Is there anything that needs to be asked or clarified before we go to the public from committee members? Okay, so then we'll park that for now. And at this time, we'll move forward then with the meeting. So at this time, any person present wishing to object, support, or have general questions on the consents that are being presented tonight, please indicate and state your name and address. So we'll go through Rennell and Secretary Treasurer, and I'll let you ask if there's anybody wishing to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Anyone currently in attendance wishing to speak on this item can use the raise hand function in Zoom. If you are connected by phone, you may dial *9 to raise your hand. So we'll give it a little bit of time to see if anyone wishes to speak, as we do have some members of the public present.
Mr. Chair, I know they do want to speak. They must be having problems. Because their letter, I think Planner Pash has said that they want to read their letter out.
Right. So I guess my question to you, Madam Secretary Treasurer, is Mr.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Yep, they've indicated now. They got the raise hand function working. So I will, it is both members, Rix and Dan, on one connection. So I will allow them to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep. Good evening, and I see you're both on the same connection. So you guys will have to determine who goes first, but whoever goes first, please read your full name just so we make sure we get your name correctly.
Okay, hello. Can you see me?
No.
Can you see me or just hear me?
We just hear you right at this point.
All right, well, we have a camera. In any case, it's been enjoyable seeing you. This is going on. So my name is Rix Lubenkov, and my wife is Nancy Wilson. We own the 100 acres in the top half, north half of lot 11, concession 9. And I must say that this is my first foray into municipal planning. And I had to learn quite a bit just to get to this point. And this meeting, I don't think it's made it any more clear in my mind as to exactly what's going on. In any case, I had prepared some notes. I would like to, ask the committee members, I guess they could raise their hand, if they read the letter that I wrote.
So Rick, I think I received it. I read it. I think everybody received, and I think it was included in the package as well. So
it was, but it was on. It was the last page of 38 pages. It was quite a bit. In any case, yeah. So there were a lot of numbers thrown around. I was desperately trying to keep up, but I'm not sure that I did. Now, just on the face of it, my first question is.
Just on that, Rex, if you need clarification, I can ask, I can get that clarification if you need that for sure.
Yeah, no, I guess Mr. Apke was speaking with, if he's still around, I don't see him. There we go. Hi, how you doing? He was, am I correct in saying that this application is going to change?
So I will go to Mr. Rapke and what he was proposing. Is that what you're asking, Rick?
Yes, well, it was just a little bit confusing. What I would like clarification of is on the 100 acres of lot 11, concession 9, that Darwin owns. How many lots are you proposing to take off of that?
Okay, let me go to Mr. Rapke, who is the agent for the applicant. Go ahead, Mr. Rapke.
Yep. Would the Secretary of Treasurer mind putting the map back up? It'll help describe what's going on.
I'm looking at the map.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to be looking at the same one so that I can describe what we're looking at the same thing. Wonderful. Okay, so the original proposal before committee is to make 4 lots in that 100 acres in the northern portion of the subject land. So lot 1, 2, 3, and 4 shown on that map. So 3 of those would be building lots, about 1 hectare in area, and the 4th would be 38.2 hectares. In response to, I believe, the concerns raised by yourself and that committee was expressing, I was talking to Chip over text during this meeting. We've suggested that we remove the application, so the committee would defer any decision on severing lot 4, and we would formally withdraw, so it wouldn't be decided upon tonight, which is a technicality, because if they deny it, then we would be entitled to appeal that decision, which is not what we want to do. We want to withdraw it. So they would defer a decision on that one. We would then formally withdraw that, and then it just never comes back. It's like that lot wasn't applied for. So then the committee would just be deciding on making the 3 building lots. That would leave a severance available for yourself to apply for as per the lot density policies of the Grey Highlands and Grey County official plans.
Okay, I think I follow that, but what I'd like to ask, how many, if you take off 3 building lots, lots 1, 2, and 3, and now you're saying you're going to remove lot 4
as a severance.
but it's not going anywhere, correct?
Correct. It stays stuck to the rest of the farm.
So, but there will still be, how many lots then in total will there be on that 100 acres?
And so that was the nuance that I was trying to explain. The county policy, you're clearly entitled to.
No, just if you could just answer that question. How many lots will there exist on the 100 acres of lot 11 owned by Chip Madill?
So that's the question is, do you count it as 5 lots, or do you count it as 4.5? And you're really counting that 1 lot twice, or do you count it in the southern portion? And the approach, in my experience in Grey Highlands, is to always count that when it straddles a lot line, it's the bulk of the lot, whichever original parcel it falls in, you're counting that lot there.
Yeah, no, but my question is, I mean, if I look at this map and you take off lots 1, 2, and 3, lot 4 is still going to be there. There'll still be 4 lots.
It's okay. It's not going to be a separate lot. It's still going to be retained with the 125 hectares. Mr. Rappi, you want to say that?
Okay. Okay. So this would, all right. I'm just, you'll have to bear with me a bit because I had some prepared notes, but this is kind of changed things quite a bit.
So just on that, Rick, so then lot 4 would not be a separate buildable lot. It would be all part of the 125 hectares. So it would not be a separate buildable lot as being proposed right now.
Okay, but now this, the original 200 acre lot that we each own half of, I'm just not certain as to, because there were a number of kinda sortas that were thrown around, and it was kinda sorta. I just didn't understand it. So now, are you saying that because he's only severing those 3 lots,
that would allow you to take a severance off your lot of the total number?
okay, so let me just, so what are you going to, like, the original 200 acres of lot 11 is going to have, if let's say that I was to sever a lot off my property, that original 200 acres is going to have, the way I'm looking at it, it's going to have 6 separate lots on it.
If you apply, if you applied for a lot, it would be up to a total 4 plus the 2 retains.
Yeah, but so in other words, now, are you saying that the original 200 acre lot 11 doesn't matter then?
Mr. Rapti, can you explain that a bit further?
And it matters. It matters in terms of counting things, but again, you can make 5 severed lots into retained effectively. So the important thing to conclude is by dropping lot 4, you can apply for a severance. And if that's a thing you want to do, then like I would suggest do it immediately, and then it's done. Right after.
Oh yeah, no, I would be on it like a chicken on a June bug.
Yeah. So that's effectively the conclusion. Like it would give you one more, there would be one more available, and you could apply for that lot.
Yeah, I'm still, I must say that I am almost more confused than I was before, because when I look at that, I don't know how you can just suddenly put lot 4 in with the retained 125 hectares. It just sort of disappears from that calculation. In any case,
I think just on that, I think right now it's part of it. It's not separate. It's part of that retained. Is that correct, Mr. Rupke?
It is, and the way I've always looked at it, and county staff disagree. They count that in theirs when they count for 6. But to me, the entire purpose of a lot density policy is to limit the number of lots on a landscape scale. So just because something trips over a lot line, why would you count it 2 times? And if you take it to the extreme, if that lot was 5 meters over a lot line, is it a whole extra lot that should take away from that lot density? You can't count a lot that exists 2 times just because it straddles an arbitrary denominator that we're counting density by, right? So the bulk of it is in the southern one. That's always been the approach that I've seen Grey Highlands take, is to say you're counting it once, it's down there, instead of counting it 2 times as a lot in both of the original lots.
okay. Could I just ask Mr. Rapke a question?
Go ahead.
It should be, I think this should be fairly obvious. Given lot 11, concession 9, if I sever a lot from my property, how many lots in total will there be in lot 11?
Mr. Rupke, you want to answer that?
There'd be 4 building lots. One, the bulk of your farm lot, and I would say half of another one.
Half a lot. What's a half lot? Okay, so, but you don't see 6 separate properties on lot 11?
Yes, I see what you're saying. Absolutely. That there's 6 separate, but that's what I'm saying. If you take it to an extreme and there's only, what if there's 1 foot of that property within lot 11? Is there still 6, So to me,
Well, it looks like, it certainly looks like 6 to me. It looks like 4, it would be 4 building lots and 2 10 properties.
So hang on, Rex. Lot 4 is not a buildable lot. Lot 4 is stuck with the retained. You cannot build on it separately. It doesn't go away, but you can't put a house on it separately because they're suggesting it to be withdrawn, and it's going to be stuck with the retained 125 hectares. So technically, it's not going anywhere, but it's not a buildable lot.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word for that, and okay, so I'm just going to revert back. First up, these changes seem to be just a little bit confusing. I mean, I don't know how often this happens, that things are, on the fly during a meeting, you make major changes to an application. But in any case,
so just for clarity on that, the suggestion is, Rex, that particular lot, B09, would be deferred, and then the application would be withdrawn. So the committee's not looking at approving it, it's looking at deferring it. That could be the option of this committee, and then furthermore, it would be withdrawn.
Okay, fine. So yeah, the other thing, or let me just say that, I mean, I really wanted to comment on, Mr. Pasha laid out the policy to me, and I've spoken with members well, people who are connected to Grey County and a number of members that are connected to Grey Highlands. And not when we talked about the fairness of this before the sudden change, there wasn't a single individual, without exception. Everyone said that this was just absolutely unfair. What I'd like to do is,
So just on that, I think it's came across through this committee discussion that there's that same feeling here as well.
yes, I feel quite, I feel quite buoyed by the careful consideration given to this by the committee. The other thing I was going to mention was that, there's nothing stopping Chip, Darwin, from subdividing lot 10. So he's got that 200 acres more now if lot number 4 from the original severance sort of suddenly becomes part of that. And there could be now, I spoke with Mr. Pasha, and he told me in no uncertain terms that should Chip apply to sever that property, he could quite possibly sever 5 or 6 lots from that property. And Mr. Pasha told me that it would probably be approved. So all of a sudden now, this begins to look like a hamlet here, not just these lots. But anyway, if we can sever a lot, I'll start my application process tomorrow. I've already spoken to Questa Planning. I spoke to Don Scott this morning, and they expressed that they would be happy to do our plan, much as Mr. Rapke did Chip's. So, I guess everything is going to be fine. Nancy, do you want to say anything?
So just before you leave, I think Planner Pasha, you did have your hand up. Did you have something to add to Rex and his comments? I know you had your raised hand. Did you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything else said.
Yeah, okay, you put it up. Okay.
In addition to that, I would say that, when I spoke with Mr. Pasha initially, he explained to me that it's appeared to be supported by policy, but that it had absolutely nothing to do with fairness. And I was a bit shocked and dismayed. In any case, I'll be in touch with Questa Planning tomorrow. We'll go through the process of severing a lot that we may, we'll use in the future.
And did you say Miss Wilson was wanting to speak as well? She's
no, Nancy, no, we're going to go ahead and do this. I just want to register again that I'm just a little bit skeptical about withdrawing that lot. I mean, you're more familiar with planning than I am, but withdrawing the lot, it's not going anywhere. What stops Chip from severing it later?
Well, I guess I would go back to the policy. If you're making an application for a lot, then that changes. Then that number doesn't meet the policy anymore if you're making an application.
Okay, all right. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that the consideration that this committee gave to this matter.
And the committee hasn't made any decision yet.
No, but you've had a good look at it.
Absolutely. And I do want to make a note that from the planning part, the county does allow an extra lot, and that would have to be an amendment to Grey Highlands official plan, which is another option for you as well, to create a second lot.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Last time for any questions from you or your wife? Okay, Member Allen, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I understand where Rick's is coming from. If you look at that original 200-acre parcel, there's his half, there's Chip's half, and then there's 3 lots. So that's 5 lots. And I guess I want confirmation from our planner, because I'd hate to defer lot 4 and approve the other 3. And then when Rick's makes an application, we find out that no, there's already 5 lots and it's too late. So I don't know, maybe we need to defer this whole file and confirm with the County of Grey that another lot can be taken off if the 3 are approved. I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable here moving forward, as Councillor Dubik or Member Dubik said. I think we need to kind of put pause on this and get something in writing to confirm what we're being told here.
And that is the option of the committee adjustment has on all of them for sure for a deferral. Helen or Pasha, did you, when Alan was talking, you did have your hand up. Did you have a comment?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so in regards to lot density, Grey Highlands official plan interpretation is that lot density is only is based off of the area of a building envelope on an entire lot, right, within the lot density. If you have multiple building envelopes where there is technically like a dwelling, like a farm cluster, especially in a farming area, we consider that lot to be part of that lot density. Grey County, on the other hand, just because they have a larger lot density requirement, which is 6, they wouldn't really have a concern on their end regarding their policy. So when we were reviewing this, especially what Rick's is talking about, essentially, if he severs off a piece from his parcel, again, I don't really like speaking about another property for another application on another property for this particular application, but as committee has asked, I'm doing it. So if they propose to sever off a lot from their property, they will still be within the 6 property requirement density as stated in the county OP. But in the municipal OP, it would still follow along that 5 lot density as well, because we base it off of where the major building envelope and farm cluster is. And as per this property, there isn't that major farm cluster or building operation.
It's vacant land.
Yeah, that is good.
And I guess the point I was trying to raise, on lot 4, you could not build a house on lot 4 if it's withdrawn.
That could potentially be the case, yeah.
Okay, we do have, I think, another individual that wishes to speak. There was a letter from Dan. So is Dan there wishing to speak?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me there?
Yep, go ahead.
Has everyone had a chance, have all the members had a chance to review the letter that I submitted?
So it was, yeah, I'm getting nods from everybody. Yes, I have it in front of me. I have it right in front of me, right, looking at it. So yes, for me.
Yep. Well, what I'd like to emphasize is over the past 15 years, obviously the farm has grown. I have an existing bank barn. Renovations have been done over the years, just as far as maintenance goes. So the upkeep has been put into this building. It was originally intended for housing livestock. And basically over time, I started cash cropping. And based on that, this property, it's got the barn, which will at some point be housing livestock. But I've obviously made expansions. I've completed a build of a drive shed that was for housing the equipment that I use in the operation. And in the future, moving forward, I will have livestock in the barn, in the current bank barn. My concerns are based on houses or application to put houses directly across the road. Where does that leave me? In the event that once the cattle are housed, I'm going to be using basically the front field and some of the remaining rough ground and mixed ground as pasture. So That being said, with close proximity to the road, is this going to pose a problem? Is this going to prevent me from expanding the operation? You know, will it be that a couple years down the road, can I put up another building, or can I add on to the existing barn? These are all concerns that I have. Now, going back to the MDS report, I was never contacted by anyone. I expressed that to Planner Pasha, and basically I was told that there's a number that they use, but basing the MDS number provided, it just doesn't seem to jive. It seems inaccurate. And after talking to OMAFA and OFA, getting a little bit more information, I was also told that where you're pasturing your barnyard, this is all part of your housing for the livestock. So I strongly feel that this MDS report is inaccurate. And coming back to the fact that, again, nobody has contacted me. There was never a conversation. So as far as the information that has been used, I think it's inaccurate. And that being said, that in itself, I have to protect my well-being. And basically, is this going to hinder any future expansion based on all this?
So then you asked two things. I know member Clark did ask about across the road where you are of the ability for future livestock barns or facilities. Maybe I'll go to Mr. Rapke, because you did the MDS. Can you explain how you came up to the numbers? And I think Dan, maybe, and I'm not sure how many animal units they are, but can you speak to that, Mr. Planner or Mr. Rapke?
Yep. Let me just open my report again here, but basically, I asked Chip if there's any livestock in this barn. He said no. I looked at, like, you can generally tell if there's livestock. Did not see any. Calculated it as an unoccupied livestock barn, which, as I mentioned, inflates. Even if it did have cows in it, it would have a lower MDS setback requirement than what is required by an unoccupied barn. So in order to measure it, I just measured the barn area on the imagery, and I'm just pulling up my map to make sure I have the correct one labeled here. This is, sorry, could the gentleman speaking mention his address, and I can just confirm which one this relates to?
Yeah, my name is Dan Pukta. I'm directly across the road at 135-647 9th line.
Perfect. So that address. Bear with me as I scroll through my report. 647. I measured the estimated livestock barn area at 360 square meters, again, based on using the aerial imagery and measuring the footprint of the barn. And that assumes that the entire livestock barn is occupied. The yard doesn't count for measuring an MDS setback. It's only to buildings and to the manure pile, and there's no manure pile. So, and again, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, I did not even notice if there was a fenced yard. It looked like open field. So the MDS procedure does allow you to do that when you, like, I didn't have a means of contacting this individual, so I use what the MDS procedure says. And again, it's a conservative estimate when you go to the unoccupied barn. So it still leaves latitude for everything to comply with MDS. Theoretically, yeah, your ability to expand could be limited if you want to do something really, really big. Typically, for beef cow operations, you would still be able to expand, in a moderate to a moderate level that is typical of most beef cow operations, unless you're doing something like 1,000 cows. It's impossible to say though without knowing all the information.
So Mr. Rappy, roughly how many beef cows did you come up with on your calculation for that barn?
So mine doesn't calculate cows. Again, it's unoccupied, but like I have the MDS2 calculator open. If this gentleman would like to provide information, I could see what a setback would be on the fly, quite honestly.
Okay, this may be more.
As it stands right now, 30 head of cattle. And the plan is to also be pasturing. I'm going to be utilizing this property to its max potential. And again, it sort of speaks for itself. And the part that I find a little alarming is that, it says right in the guidelines that, basically that it's recommended, as far as the guidelines go, that whoever is actually going to be submitting the MDS report, it's best to consult the individual, either the owner or the operator, and have that conversation. Has the neighboring property to the south of mine with the barn, have they been contacted? Have you actually put accurate numbers for that property as well?
Through the chair, no, I haven't talked to them. So what I do in that scenario is I take, again, the footprint of the barn, and I go through all of the different combinations in the calculator that you can do for cows, because I could tell from the imagery it was cows. And I tinker with it until the calculator tells me the number of cows with the type of cow that I've chosen. So there's backgrounders, there's, what else do we got here? Short keepers, and then you get to pick if they're confinement or yard barn, and you tinker with the calculator until you find a combination that corresponds to the area of the barn that results in the largest possible setback. In that case, there's no way I can be underestimating the setback requirement, because I've picked the largest possible setback requirement. And when it's still double the distance away to the lots, I don't need to confirm anything else, because it's impossible for the application not to comply with MDS at that point.
Well, based on the fact that I was never consulted, given the potential for this, let's just say my barnyard, which has to be factored in with your MDS report, my barnyard, let's just say that I utilize the roadside. I cement the front side of that barn and wrap it around to the north side. Now my barnyard is basically, let's just say, double the footprint of the barn. And it is now that much closer to the road, because you do have to factor in barnyard. Have those numbers or have they been input or not?
Okay, just I see our planner Pasha putting your hand up. Go ahead, planner Pasha. Do you have something? It's my voice. Go ahead.
So the factor isn't to the barnyard, it's the barnyard is the type of beef in the options of the MDS calculator. So if you have cows, they're either cows that are in confinement or that they're part of the barn and yard. And if they are part of the barnyard, it's the setback is to the building base, not to the yard. As stated per the calculator and the report, it says it's to the building base, but the yard itself, it basically accounts for a larger MDS setback. And barnyard, and essentially for 30 cows that are located in a barn and yard, the setback requirement is 166 meters.
And you're factoring in that being on the west side closest to the road. That's where you've
that will be from the
that's where you've input the, I'm sorry?
That will be from the edge of the barn.
So you are not factoring in the outer edge of the barnyard, the outermost edge.
It says minimum distance from livestock barn.
Okay, and so you're not factoring in the barnyard.
The barnyard is factored in the option.
Okay, so are you factoring in the barnyard?
Yeah.
You just said that you weren't. You said that you're only factoring in the barn itself. If I cement the west face of that barn and it wraps around, heading back to the south or back or towards the north, and I head due east. Now, the outermost edge of my barnyard would be closer to the road, depending on how big a barnyard I decide to go with.
So, sorry, Mr. Chair, can I jump in? None of this exists, so it can't be contemplated by the MDS calculation. It can't be based on a future thing. It's based on stuff that exists right now.
So that's, I'm glad you mentioned that. So now, does that hinder me from proceeding with expansion in the future?
It does not, because to create a yard, like if you were to fence something in, does not require
Yes.
a building permit. The MDS2, the other side of this equation that restricts your ability to do things, only relates to activities that trigger a permit, such as the expansion or the establishment of a new barn. Fencing in a yard is not relevant to this. So they can build the houses and you can fence it right up to your lot line at the road, and your cows can go there, and it does not factor into any restriction on you. The only thing that would be, again, theoretically restricted is your size of barn, but I guarantee you 30 cows is not coming anywhere close to being restricted by the building footprints.
I did mention earlier that the plan was to expand. And again, I've completed the renovation on the barn, or the upkeep of the barn. The drive shed was completed in the fall, so I still have grading and I still have basically all the yard work to do. I have to install the fencing and everything else. So anyhow, that being said, I just want to make sure that this has all been factored in.
So I think for clarity, if you wanted to add to that barn, Dan, if you're expanding that barn, I think the question you're trying to say is, could you expand that any closer to these proposed lots? Like, is that what you're
exactly? Exactly. I just don't want to run into problems in the future. That's again, I'm trying to protect future expansion is what I'm trying to do. And I want to make sure that it's fair. The barn was, it's a century plus old, and I just want to make sure that that's all protected.
So Mr. Rapp, you said sometimes on MDS it is a little bit reduced. So if he,
Mr. Chair, if you would entertain it, Dan, would you mind telling me what you want to expand it to and what type of cows they are? I can tell you right now what it would be setback.
Well, again, depending on how I work it, it's still, that part is up in the air. But knowing that I will be pasturing cattle, it's, again, that's still to be determined. I didn't, as far as I'm still in the planning stage of that, but I mean, it's obvious that, with the barn being the way it is, the drive shed is in place, the plans are to utilize that for pasture. But I mean, there obviously will be barnyard space. But my point is that, will this be an issue moving forward for myself? Will I face any opposition?
I don't think it will. Again, I would need an idea of the scale. What are you trying to scale up to? 50 cows, 200 cows, and again, in the barn?
Well, potentially, yeah. And depending on how many I pasture, but you said that would not, that wouldn't have any bearing on the MDS report, is what you're saying?
It's just if you're expanding your barn. So if you're going to build a barn to fit 100 cows, then it would impact that potentially. Are they feeders or backgrounders or what?
Well, at this point, it's just, as far as that goes, it's up in the air. They'll just be feeders, I guess. And, we'll have to determine more once spring hits, right? I'm still in the planning stages, but I mean, fencing is still to come. And, at that point, it'll be, we'll just have to see, right? But I mean, I would like to see 50 head.
So I guess the question to you, Dan, an option to this decision for today is approve, deny, or defer. I'm gathering you'd like to have a little bit of time to have conversation. Is that what you're seeking, to be able to have a little bit?
I think I would like to make sure that, given the circumstances, again, I didn't really have any time to consult an independent planner or anything else and lay out the groundwork for basically my future plan or my future use of the farm. And, you know, there was no chance to even offer that clarity. And
You were
I
saying
mean,
that
I just want to make sure that there's no impact.
You were saying you weren't consulted.
Well, I mean, if at all possible, but I'm just moving forward. I'm just trying to protect the potential growth, right?
Right. Okay. So, okay, just hold on there, Dan. I'm going to go to Planner Pasha. He has a comment, and I'll come back to you again. I'm not trying to cut you off. Just trying to make sure we get clarity.
Just like to indicate the commenter's property is zoned as rural. And within the rural zone, I believe intensive livestock is not permitted as of right, as it is permitted in agriculture zones.
And that's high density. That's high intensive.
Yeah, it permits non-intensive agriculture uses or agriculture operations. In this case, the definition for intensive agriculture operation is where the number of livestock units on the farm is 100 or more, and the ratio of livestock units to tillable acres on the farm unit is 2 or greater. Or the number of livestock units on the farm unit is 150 or more, and the ratio of livestock units to tillable acres is greater than 1. So essentially, that would need to match. And that's something that needs to also be adhered to if the commenter is proposing to do livestock units in the future on the property.
Right. So there's limitations to rural versus agricultural lands. Right.
That is correct.
Do you understand that, Dan? What he just said?
Yeah, on some level I do. Yeah.
Okay. Hang on. Planner Rapke Mr. Rapke has a comment. I'm going to make a summary here in a minute for committee to consider. Go ahead, Planner Mr. Rapke.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just hoping to put Dan at ease here. So I've got the calculator open. If you got 30 cows now that can fit in the barn, to expand it to 100 cows, again, fitting in a barn. This would be for a barn expansion, not your yard. Your yard's irrelevant. You can just do that. So to put a barn that can fit 100 cows, if you're doing backgrounders, solid outside covered manure storage, your expansion would have to be 129 meters from a sensitive receptor. So one of these new houses. The new houses, the building envelope is going to have to already be 179 meters from your existing barn. So we have a 50-meter buffer from what you could expand 100 cows to on your barn, what they're already going to be at, right? There's quite a lot of latitude here for you to do a very large barn expansion without having any concern with these the location of the new houses.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Anything else, Dan?
No, I just want to make sure, again, like just moving forward, I just want to make sure that again, that I wouldn't run into any pushback or resistance if I did, in the future. If there are new houses that are built, am I going to be facing complaints from the owners?
Okay.
That's the concern.
Right. Especially and then there's also the
directly across the road.
Right. I think there's also, you got to take into consideration of where your manure storage is as well.
Yeah.
So, a question to you, Mr. Rapke. We've had a lot of comments. First, before I go any further, Renell, our Secretary Treasurer, do we have anybody else wishing to speak? Is there any other public individuals wishing to speak here?
Anybody else who is present and wish to speak on this file may use the raise hand function in Zoom to indicate their wish to do so. If you are connected by phone, you may dial *9 to raise your hand. And currently no one else is requesting.
Sorry, I think Chip might want to just say something.
Okay.
There he is.
So this is the owner of the land?
Yes.
You're on mute yet. Good evening.
Hello, all right, can you hear me?
Yes. Floor is
Right
yours.
I don't see my picture. How come my picture's not up there?
I don't,
You guys can see me anyways.
well, we can hear you.
All right, okay, well, wait, Tony, you've got this buggered up here.
I don't know how.
Come on now.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Well, okay, I'll talk, but I comb my hair and I put on my best hat, so
We're
picture me anyways. Paul, haven't seen you since high school. And okay, we'll go backwards here. I've wrote a big speech, makes no sense about anything. Just one thing, by retracting that fourth severance, number 4 lot, I thought that would appease my neighbor to the north, who I've met, nice fella. And it sounds like Matt actually has addressed all the problems to my neighbor across the road, Dan, who I've talked to. And what else should I be saying?
Well, I guess I could go to, if there are any questions here from the committee members to the owner of the land, to the committee, if that's okay.
Sure, that's good with me.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee members to Mr. Madill? Okay.
Well, I can keep talking if you want.
Well, do you have something that just,
Yeah, I'm probably muddying the waters or bringing a few things up. Stuart, my late father, had requested us to sever these 3 lots. It seems to be a question that hasn't came up, but it's more for saving the majority of the farm, to pay the bills. He's died. There's expenses. He has numerous pieces of property. Some of them are like his home farm where he was born, 200 acres of bush, which, by the way, hardwood bush is worth nothing right now. Mr. Trump, thank you. And really what I'm trying to say is Stuart said, do some severances. One of the severances is going to be sold to a family friend for 25 years. I won't go into detail, but we thought we had another lot that he could buy. So we're trying to do these severances, and the other 2 lots hopefully will go in his great grandchildren's name. And hopefully we don't have to sell them to pay the bills to save the majority of his property. His farm's basically a 400-acre farm. And long and the short of it is, that's it. We don't do a lot of severances. This is more out of necessity than we're not going to make any gains. There's bills to pay. Stuart, you got to pay the bills. We're sacrificing some of the properties that he owns, but we're not sacrificing this one. We're keeping these farms to be handed down generation to generation. And hopefully whatever I said didn't make it bad. So that's it. Okay.
Well, it doesn't hurt to have your personal perspective on things, and you're the owner of that land now, and that sort of. I guess the question I will ask you as the owner, along with Johnny Repke, there was originally at tonight's meeting there was a little concern about the numbers and the numbers on one portion of that original 200 acres versus the other. I think there's been suggested that there will be a withdrawal application for lot 4, which will reduce the number by 1. We've had a neighbor to, I guess, on the original lot has had some concerns on the numbers and has made comments that they may apply for a lot themselves. And then we just recently had comments from the neighbor across the road with concerns about the bank barn and expanding those animal units for that barn and yard, and that's, I guess the question I would have to you is, and then this is going to be up to the committee to determine, and the committee has the three options of approve, deny, or defer on the floor that is being presented tonight. And this is sort of as a hearing to the committee of adjustment and dealing with all the evidence that is presented to us. I guess a question I will present to you as the chair and representing this committee is, do you have an issue with deferring this to allow some of these issues to be finalized and dealt with from the concerns that were raised tonight? Is that an option that could maybe present a positive outcome moving toward a next meeting, just because of all the issues that have been raised? Is that a possibility or an option?
Am I talking?
You can, yeah, you can.
Are you there? Ted, can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah. It was to you, yes.
Well, I sort of missed what you were saying there. Do I want to what? Oh, no. Well, I guess would it make sense to defer it? I don't like deferring things because I'm 64 years old. It takes quite a while.
I would suggest.
I don't know if you can do a verbal. Basically, on paper, before noon tomorrow, we will have a withdrawal of that fourth severance.
Mr. Chair, if I could jump in here, in my opinion, I feel like we've addressed the concerns. You know,
Yep.
we've mitigated the northern concern with dropping lot 4. The concerns across the road. I hope Dan feels that his concerns have been addressed. Like, they're, given the scope of his operation, there will not be a problem with him expanding what he wants to do. I do not think we need to do a deferral. It is going to impact Chip's ability to settle the estate and pay these outstanding bills related to the estate. That's, again, part of the reason this is happening. So there is a bit of a time sensitive nature here, and I'm hoping committee is satisfied with the adjustments that we've made tonight.
Okay, I appreciate that. I was only asking because there was a number of issues raised and of the complexity, and you've answered that. I'm going to go back to, since there's no other from the public, we've heard from the landowner. Any further comments, questions, clarity from committee members? Oh, sorry, Secretary Treasurer, was there anybody else wishing to speak? Sorry, I didn't want to cut anybody off.
Thank you, Chair. Rix and Dan have raised their hand again. If the committee would be in agreement to allow them to speak again, or
if they have, I'll allow it, as long as it's not carrying on. If there's some new information or a summary, then I will allow it, if that's okay with the committee. Okay, so go ahead.
Sorry, my mouse was sticky. Okay, so thank you very much. I was just wondering, given the complexity of what's taken place in the last, what's, I guess it's 2 hours, would the committee, or someone on the committee, send me, could someone send something in writing saying that, that, not that I don't trust you, but it's, would I get something in writing that says that I'll be able to proceed with a severance so that I can at least get that started?
So this committee cannot answer that. I can let Planner Pasha speak to that. Our job as committee members is to deal with, it's like a hearing. We deal with the file, we deal with the application, we deal with the evidence, we make a decision. We can't give you advice or all that. So Planner Pasha, do you have a comment to his query?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, the planning staff cannot send a document to another property owner regarding an application for them to be able to begin another application for consent. That would be, I believe that would be a conflict regarding this application, and I wouldn't be able to do that. If the applicant wishes to apply for a consent, they may do so based off of the information that they've heard today and based off decisions that would be made today. But planning staff cannot provide that letter indicating another applicant can now do a consent if they wish to do so.
Thank you for that. Rex, a
Okay,
comment?
yeah. Can I just say something to that?
Go ahead.
So in other words, what Abdullah is saying is that although the committee as a group has said that I'll be able to do this given what has transpired with the current severance, you can't send me a letter that says that given what has changed on this severance, that would allow me to proceed with a application for consent?
So, Rex, I can't predetermine the decision of this committee till I take it to a vote. The evidence has been presented, the information has been presented until the full outcome. And once a vote has happened and a decision has been made here, whether it's approved, deny, or defer, then
Okay.
then this hearing is done with. The decision has been made. If there is a deferral, it can come back to a future meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. But once the decision is made here, the hearing is done. The decision has been made. The duty of this committee has been made.
Okay, all right. I'm out then. I just wanted to see, like I would have thought that, you just, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Hang
on.
Thank you very much.
Hang on. Planner Pasha did have his hand up. Did you have a comment? Planner Pasha, you just have your hand up.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Every applicant for any planning application is required to do their own due diligence and bring their proposal forward to the planning department, and the planning department can then provide them guidance. Similarly, with this application where the applicant came forward with 5 lots for the purposes of severances, proposal for 4 lots. For the severances, we reviewed the documentation that they provided and supported based off of policy. We cannot provide other applicants or other property owners with information related to consents, or unless they come to us with a proposal. We are mainly a guiding and advising staff. We cannot provide in other terms, we cannot just go and let people know, yeah, you can sever this, you can sever that. That's not within our.
And most applicants hire a planner.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out. I just want to say one more thing. First off, I really thank the council or the committee for the way you've looked at this. But when I asked Abdullah if Chip was able to sever the 200 acres, he told me that he could and that it would likely be approved. So I would like to ask, if I was to sever a lot from my 100 acres, is it likely to be approved? Now, Abdullah answered me regarding Chip's 200 acres. I would just like him to answer me regarding my 100 acres based on what he knows after sitting through this 2-hour and 15-minute meeting.
So I'm going to let Planner Pasha answer that, but it's up to him how he answers it, because there's no obligation, because this is a hearing talking about the files that are in front of him.
Okay. I'm good. But I'm just, that would assure me a little bit that what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I would say call him tomorrow.
He didn't. Well, I'm talking to him right now.
Well, so we're dealing with the.
Okay. All right. Okay. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. Thank you very much, Mayor McQueen. This has been quite educational, I must say.
Yeah, we're committing.
Thanks.
We're arm's length of council. Just remember that. Okay.
Okay. See you tomorrow, Dilla.
Okay. Good job. We have a little bit of, after 2 hours and 15 minutes, we still have a bit of a smile on us. And I think that's good for our committee. That's who we are. We're human and everything else. Last call, Madam Secretary Treasurer, there's nobody else who wishes to speak.
That is correct, Chair. Nobody else has wished to speak.
Thank you. Okay, going back to the last words to committee members, to our planner, to the planner Rocky, the agent's planner, comments. We've had a long meeting. A lot of information has been provided here. Any last comments, questions from committee members? We still have 5 of us here, so we're hanging in here, so that's good. All right. So then the conditions have been read out. The applicant's agent has agreed to those conditions that have been read out for the 4 files. It's been suggested that my page, so I get B09 lot 4 is can be considered by the applicant and agent to be withdrawn, but that can't happen until tomorrow. But this committee has the option of this one or all of them to either approve, deny, or defer. So if there are no other comments, questions, I will then go back to committee for your decision to start with. And I do have, we're quite clear that B06 is lot 1. So then with regards to B06 lot 1, and these are all for consent, your position on this application, Member Allen.
I support the consent with the conditions as read.
Okay, Member Dubik.
I defer.
Okay, hang on, I gotta keep track of this. So this is approved. Defer. Okay, Member Clark.
Support with the conditions as read.
Okay, Member Little.
I support with conditions as read.
Okay, and as Member McQueen, I support with the conditions that have been read, subject to a 20-day appeal period once it is mailed out. If there are no appeals during that time, then you may proceed to follow up with the conditions that have been to this file, and I deem this application is carried. Okay, so the next one, and so that was, just in summary, that was 1, 2, 3, 4 support, 1 deferred on that application for B06. So then B07 lot 2, and this is again for 114. So your position on this file, Member Dubik.
I defer.
Okay. Member Clark.
Support with the conditions as read.
Okay. Member Little.
Support with conditions as read.
Member Allen.
I support with the conditions as read.
Okay, and as myself, Member McQueen, I support with the conditions that have been read. Just as clarity as I did before, we have 4 that are supporting, 1 is deferred. Subject to the conditions that have been read out, there's a 20-day appeal period from the day it is mailed out. If there is no appeals during that time, you may proceed with those conditions. And I deem B07 is carried. Okay, moving on then to B08 is lot 3. And again, that's, I think, 104 hectares or whatever that is. So B08 lot 3, your position on this file, Member Clark.
Support with the conditions as read.
Okay, Member Little.
I support with conditions as read.
Okay, Member Allen.
I support with the conditions as read.
Okay, thank you. Member Dubik.
I defer.
Okay, thank you. And as myself, Member McQueen, I support with the conditions that have been read. And just in summary, there were 4 support and 1 deferral, subject to a 20-day appeal period from once this file, or sorry, the decision has been mailed out. If there are no appeals during that time, then they may proceed with the conditions that were read out, and I deem this application is carried. Next one is B09 lot 4, and this is the one that's 38.2 hectares. And your position on this application for consent, Member Little.
I defer.
Okay, Member Allen.
Defer.
Okay, Member Dubik.
Defer.
Okay, thank you. Member Clark.
Defer.
Okay, and as myself, Member McQueen, I also defer this file. I guess subject to the deferral being back to the staff and the I guess the applicant or the agent, then it will be determined whether it comes forward or it is withdrawn. And that decision is carried. Going back to our agenda that deals with, hang on, I gotta find my agenda here. It's somewhere. There we are. Okay, so we only had the four files, all in one applicant. Other business. Is there any other business with regards to the Committee of Adjustment? Okay, next meeting is scheduled for April 8th at 5 p.m. I guess going to you, Planner Pasha, do we have any files for that date?
We should have one file for that one. It would be a consent. It's an interesting one because it is one that is related to lot density again. So it should be an interesting one, but it's only one file rather than four separate files.
I see some people smiling, so I will say that thank you for that. And one file, I know sometimes we've had multi-files. Sometimes if there's one file, sometimes if it's not ready to go, you can always move it to the next one, whether it has 2 or 3, but that's totally up to the staff to bring that forward whenever it feels ready and the applicant wishes it to come forward. So we'll leave it at that. It is 7:21. I would, if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Member Little, second by Member Clark, that we adjourn at 7:21. All in favor? That is carried, unanimous. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, committee members. Thanks, staff. Thanks for the public. We've learned a lot in this meeting. We'll continue to learn lots and try to do what we can do for the best of the municipality of Grey Highlands. Thanks, everyone.